Everybody, it's me, Willow. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm here with another fun video for all of you guys to enjoy. Today, we will be breaking down the first 3 episodes of the new series, The Testaments. This is the sequel series to The Handmaid's Tale, which is a very classic book that was adapted into a very famous television series that is very well known. It's been pretty heavily Emmy nominated, and I think it's won quite a few Emmys, and it kind of really platformed Elizabeth Moss and also kind of brought Alexis Bledel back from her cable days of being on television. Very big show, of course. I believe it was 5 seasons, just recently ended last year, 2025. And now we're back with the new series, and we are starring the beautiful standout Chase Infiniti from One Battle After Another, our 2026 Best Picture film. So it's interesting to see her in this TV series and something like very different from who her character was in One Battle After Another. And honestly, Chase is just such an outstanding character and actress in this series as well. Definitely one of the main reasons why I'm watching this show between her and Rowan Blanchard. Definitely the main reasons why I'm watching this show. I was a Handmaid's Tale fan. I think I watched like the first 2 seasons completely. And then the show is just like a very violent and it's just like, very hard to digest. So I kind of would just watch it sporadically and I never really watched it completely all the way through. I would often kind of just watch like the big episodes or I would keep track of what was going on each season, but not actually like really watch the episodes. So I am kind of familiar of what's going on in the series. Like I know Agnes is Hannah, who is June's biological daughter with Luke, and they were all a family pre Gilead. And as Gilead was rising, they tried to escape out of the US into Canada, and they were caught before they crossed the border. And as that all happened, Agnes or Hannah was moved into a commander's family and became Agnes, and then June became a handmaid. And, all that kind of ensued. And throughout the series, Agnes was often used as like a political pawn to kind of like torture, manipulate June into like giving up where other handmaids were hiding, or kind of used with Serena in the big like political kind of stance at the end with Waterford's like funeral procession, and she's used there as this like big figure. She's obviously been transformed from like this little girl in the pink to this kind of more young woman in the purple plum outfit. And this is where we see her now. Obviously, she's grown up a little bit more. I believe from the book, it's supposed to be kind of like 15 years. So I think Agnes is supposed to be around 15 years old. I don't entirely know what's going on because obviously the television storyline is a little bit different from the canon of the book because the Testaments didn't come out until 2019 and the show came out before 2019, started to build up a couple seasons, and then the Testaments came out. So obviously there's a lot of different timelines that are kind of going on. So I feel like Hannah was about 5, 6 years old when she was taken from Gilead. So I'm assuming there must have been, maybe like 10 years in between from that and now, because she does get her menstrual cycle in the second episode of, or I guess at the very end of the first episode, going into like the second episode of this series. Big plot point, kind of showing her growing up and becoming this woman, being primed for becoming a wife and a mother, and she's being like blessed by the fruit and she's fertile. And like this is a really big thing in Gilead, the fact that she is fertile and she can have her own children rather than handmaids. So I do think it's like interesting because obviously Hannah Agnes kind of grew up in the handmaids seasons. So I think she was like maybe like must have been like 11, 12 years old in the last scene we see of her in the funeral procession. So I'm wondering how much timeline has happened since like June has like escaped and saw her in the propaganda video to like now, because obviously there has been a little bit more time when we see like the Daisy character and everything that's going on with her and how she's part of Mayday, the resistance, and that's like a big plot twist. And it's kind of also revealed that is she baby Nicole? And that also kind of plays into this whole idea of the timeline because, of course, Hannah Agnes is supposed to be, maybe about 5, 6, 7 years older than Nicole, who are like their half sisters, as June is both their biological mother. And Nicole was just like a baby, maybe a toddler, you could say, by the end of the Handmaid's Tale series. So if Daisy is supposed to be Nicole, obviously they've kind of axed that because I do believe in the book Daisy is Nicole and they're just the same age or something like that. I've not read either of the books, so I'm not 100% sure, but I just wanted to mention that just because there are some canonical timeline stuff that is quite off. And if you are a big like series fan, like maybe that's gonna throw you off a little bit. Hopefully we can just kind of like get into it. Like again, like I'm not like a huge diehard fan, so I feel like I'm just going to get over it like with no problem. It's gonna be very easy. I feel like when they were alluding between June and Daisy in their conversation in Toronto that she is Nicole, and I was like, oh, okay, sounds good, interesting. I do feel like some people are saying, well, why would she send Nicole to Gilead, when she's trying to get Hannah out? So I do see some discrepancies, and of course, the timeline kind of has this discrepancy, but I'm willing to work with some of these changes. With these changes, I definitely think the pacing of all three of these episodes are terrific. I really feel like we were getting a good grasp and diving right back into this world of Gilead. I also think it's kind of different because we're seeing it from a much younger perspective, a little bit more of a naive perspective. Whereas I feel like when we are looking at June or any of the handmaids from the Handmaid's Tale, we often kind of knew that they were aware of a lot of the consequences they were going to face and the brutal world that they were in. And even, from Serena's point of view, sometimes too, or the commanders, they are adults, they kind of built this world, they know the darkness that is seeping through God's will, if that's what you want it to be called. But with these younger girls, they do kind of have some sort of inkling. You can definitely tell with Agnes and her relationship with her new like stepmother, Paula, is definitely not, perfect. She definitely had a closer relationship with her first mother, who I believe was Agnes says that she remembers when she was sick that one of her Marthas fed her like ice cubes to like help her on her deathbed. So I feel like again that could be like another discrepancy because she was so young, she's so naive, she doesn't truly understand the whole ramifications of what being in this world in Gilead is, especially as a young girl. And I think the one scene that really reflects this, like just so frighteningly, is when Agnes is like she gets her menstrual cycle and she tells her stepmother Paula, and then like they tell the Berthas, and she does her whole little thing at school where she rings the bell and all the girls come out and they congratulate her. And then she went through her little corrections with Daisy because Daisy confessed that she was blasphemous towards God's name, and then she like spun it back on Agnes because Agnes was there and witnessed it and tried to keep it like a secret so neither of them would get in trouble. So both of them would get in trouble. And then when she finally gets home after her day at Aunt Lydia's school for the girls, she has to go into the parlor where her father, the top commander, Commander Mackenzie, who was given the promotion after Commander Waterford was murdered by June in the last season of A Handmaid's Tale. He's there in the parlor with all the other high commanders, and she has to walk down them in the middle, and like one of them has his legs crossed, so he's kind of like blocking her way. So she stops there, and the guy has to like uncross his legs so she can like pass him by. And I'm just like, just the disgust. And she gets down on her knees in front of her father and says that she has been blessed and that she is fertile and fruitful and she's so grateful for God's will. And her father is just like, stands up, is like very proud of his daughter in this moment. And I was just like disgusted because she was like, "Praise be daddy," or something like that. And I was like, I can't with all these disgusting, like, she's supposed to be like maybe like 15 years old. Chase Infiniti is 25, but she's playing about a 15-year-old, and all of these men have to be at least like 50, 60, 70. Disgusting. Just such an eerie, disgusting scene just to see her being like lured in here. And even the whole like indoctrination in the middle of the night, and how Aunt Lydia comes in when she's having these nightmares of her husband, this faceless husband, coming and essentially like raping her on their honeymoon. And Aunt Lydia comes in, freaks her out in the middle of the night, takes her away, kind of like this like little frat thing, she's getting hazed. And no, she just gets this like big type of rebaptism into being like the wife, that next level. And one of the aunts is basically like drowning her, and we can see one of her friends who's also a green. So all the girls are plums, who are kind of like the more like middle school age. And if you get your menstrual cycle, you are a green. So Agnes becomes a green, and she has her friend Becca, who's been a green for like a couple weeks now. And you can definitely see that the life from her has been drained, and you can see that she kind of understands what her life is about to be transferred into, with all these different like wedding dress fittings and the expectation to be perfect. And she even confesses in Agnes, after Agnes becomes a green, that Becca does not want to be a wife. She does not want to be a mother. She does not want to get married. And Agnes is like, "Well, what would you do?" And Becca's like, I don't know. And I'm definitely feeling some sort of homoerotic tension between them, especially in episode 2, like the one scene when they're doing their little confessions between. They were so close. And I was like, "Kiss? Are you guys not gonna kiss?" And like, I'm worried that Becca might kiss Agnes and something terrible is gonna happen to her, because it's very obvious that Agnes is attracted to men because she's kind of attracted to one of her eyes, who's her guard, who's like one of the younger guys. And it's revealed that he is working with Daisy as a part of Mayday. So all of this kind of little conniving stuff is going on. I definitely love the layers that are building with all of these different characters. I feel like these 3 episodes have really fleshed out this world of Gilead, and we have 10 episodes altogether. So I feel like we're definitely going to be able to explore these characters so much more, especially Daisy in the world of Mayday. Now, I definitely wasn't expecting June to just show up in the first episode and then be very prominent in episode 2 and episode 3, and kind of get this confession that Daisy is kind of Nicole. Like, we don't get 100% confirmation, but just their conversation in the diner in Toronto in episode 2 is or episode 3 is very much leaning us towards the idea that she is Daisy, and just with the whole backstory of how she's living in Toronto. And I just love it, like the different waterfront scenes, and then her parents' thrift store, I think, was in the annex. I'm pretty sure that was the annex. Looked like it. Might have been, it could have been the Danforth, but I'm pretty sure it was the annex. And such a beautiful area. Both of them, honest, all 3, Annex, Danforth, beautiful areas. I love Toronto. And she's such a Toronto girly with her headphones and her longboard. And she's just living free with her parents in the city, with her boyfriend. Everything's going perfect. And then her parents are murdered in what seems to be like a robbery. And it's revealed actually that it's people from Gilead who are trying to get Daisy, because it's kind of revealed that Daisy is actually not her parents' child like she thought, but she's actually from Gilead and was taken as a baby, and she had to be hidden because Gilead was after her. So they put her in that like safe family home who was a part of, Mayday to begin with, and they raised her as their own child, keeping her in hiding, and now Gilead back after them and trying to take her with them. And June's able to intersect and save her and basically tell her all of this. Sounds very similar to how Nicole was brought over. So I just feel like this is basically Nicole, and I do find it very interesting that June is kind of throwing her other daughter, biological daughter, into Gilead to get her other daughter. And now some people are thinking maybe Daisy threw herself in and like heard all of this stuff. And now that she has no life in Toronto anymore with her family being killed, that why wouldn't she try and help these girls and extract them and be the inside mole? So I definitely find this all interesting, the different theories. I'd love to hear your guys' theories down below. Do you think it's Daisy who kind of threw herself in to Gilead without fully realizing all of the consequences that she could face and how dangerous it is? Or do you think it's June's whole master plan that she wanted to maybe throw Nicole Daisy in? So that's one of the big reasons why she threw her away to this other family, was to kind of get rid of this like attachment. Or do you think she was in witness protection? Like, I really do think there are so many different theories, so I'm excited to see where they go, especially with maybe the book not being 100% with what they're going to do with the series. Definitely interested to see what's going to happen with these characters and to see how she's interacting with this eye, who is also a part of Mayday, and now that he has a whole map of the St. Lydia's school that Daisy was able to design with matches. Very interesting. But one of the other pearls that Daisy is a part of during this whole undercover operation, because she was taken from Toronto as kind of like a missionary, and now she's a pearl here in Boston with all the other girls. Maryland? Not Boston, Maryland? I can't remember. It's in Massachusetts somewhere, I'm pretty sure. But one of the other pearls saw her in the washroom at night and is suspicious of her. So that's kind of lingering around. So I'm wondering what's going to happen with that. I'm also just really worried about that eye. Like, I just think he's definitely going to get caught eventually. I feel like they're not being careful enough and somebody's going to catch them. I feel like we've just had a lot of precedent in the first like 2 episodes of men being caught and punished. So I feel like this guy, he's just like prime young male. I feel like he's just definitely going to get caught and lose his tongue, lose his hand, or be hung. Something terrible. And with Mayday trying to do that extraction of the plums, and they completely fail, and all of the Mayday were killed by the eyes. Like, this is obviously a little bit more difficult and more high security than maybe Mayday expected. So, yeah, I'm definitely really loving the series so far. I think it's very promising. I'm definitely interested in the other plums. Like I said, I'm definitely clicking on this show for Rowan Blanchard, and she's had a couple fun moments so far. She's definitely a little bit more hoity toity, I'd say, than the rest of the plums. She likes to stand out. She likes to be a little know it all, show off, tell people she knows what she's talking about. She's educated. She's definitely going to be one of the best wives to the high commanders, but deep down, that's kind of all insecurity. So I wonder if she's going to be a big threat or if she's going to be a big team player. I feel like she's definitely somebody who would rattle on you. But I'm also very interested in Becca. I feel like she's really caught in this like scary place. Like she is definitely, one of the early bloomers, and all her other friends don't understand how scary it is to go into this transition towards a wife. And Agnes is going to slowly start to realize this. And I'm interested to see how much Agnes kind of remembers of her previous life and of how much she would like to gain back Hannah. Overall, I think the series is doing a great job of extending itself from The Handmaid's Tale. I definitely think episode one does a really great job of kind of building this lore and kind of outright showing us a lot of these consequences to, things like sexual assault, rape, kidnap, or masturbation, stuff like that for these male characters, but in the same sense of them getting physically punished by either being hanged or they're getting their hand chopped off, or even some of these Marthas, they were a gossip, so they got their tongue chopped out. On the other side, it's still always the girl's fault somehow, this intergrained slut shaming, and how these girls, they cannot tempt any of these men. And specifically, like with Paula, I believe, talking to Agnes once she becomes fertile and saying that growing up into a woman is always, tempting, and we are always having these different impulsions with our um different hormones kind of getting out of balance. So this really interesting conservative rhetoric, religious rhetoric being pushed, patriarchal ideals, and the corrections, in episode two, after Daisy admits to blasphemy, and they're all just like slut shaming her, calling her a dirty girl when she is confessing to her blasphemy. Like she couldn't hold it in, she wanted to confess, and she's still, slut shamed and basically told that she's dirty and all these horrible things. And it's just so intriguing to see that obviously the girls have some sort of idea of wanting to be free and being just like a regular girl, as we see with their moments of socialization, either in the park before their field trips or at their meal time. And they do have a lot of naivety, and they have like these doll houses with all these different characters. Also, interesting that the handmaid's character is the only one that's missing from her dolls, and we haven't seen any handmaids in the series so far, after so many of them were able to escape with Aunt Lydia at the with Aunt Lydia's help at the end of the Handmaid's Tale series. So very interesting to see just how this world is continuing to grow this crazy conservative rhetoric after the Massachusetts War and Boston being see, it's not in Boston because Boston's been liberated, so I think it's in Maryland, somewhere in Massachusetts. This was where it's set. It's not in Washington, right? I don't know. I just know that they're close to Washington. Maybe they are in Washington because Commander Mackenzie needs to be close to Washington for um, all of his political stuff. So yeah, I find it interesting what we're going to dive into with all these different characters and this rhetoric. I do find it kind of uncomfortable because we're diving even more into this actual reality of this rhetoric, specifically in the States, this fascism. So it's crazy that this series started about 10 years ago on television at the beginning of Trump's first presidency, and now we're in the middle of Trump's second presidency, and this fascism that we've seen on this show is starting to become even more and more realistic. So, very, very scary, especially with Roe v. Wade being overturned. I feel like these are important things to say because Margaret Atwood did take all of the context from The Handmaid's Tale and the testaments from reality, from history, and she has said history is doomed to repeat itself if we do not remember history. She says that famous quote, and that's why she kind of uses all of that stuff in her text, because she wants to, remind people like this is real. And I think people don't always understand that even though this is like a dramatization, this is fiction, this is stuff that is actually happened in the past and is currently happening. So we need to stand up and we need to use our art to speak back, and we need to use our own voices outside of art as well in the political sphere to make sure we have futures for our daughters and our sons. So, yes, I do think this is an incredible series. It is all the same people from The Handmaid's Tale coming back to do this. So very interesting to see, this collaboration once again be extended into the sequel series, and just seeing how much Elizabeth Moss is so involved in the first 3 episodes. I'm wondering how much June is going to be lingering throughout the rest of the series, but it's definitely going to be our girl Chase leading this. So I love it. I'm very interested to see the dynamic grow between Agnes and Daisy, and whether they start to, grow as a team together, or if they've become even more enemies than they kind of are lurking on right now. So let me know if you guys are watching the Testaments down below in the comments. I'd love to hear all you guys' thoughts. While you guys are at that, make sure you hit the like button and hit the subscribe button and post notification button so you don't miss out on any of my content going forward. I will hopefully continue to do a couple recaps on the Testament as the series go on. If you guys enjoyed this video, I will definitely make sure to continue to follow the season. So thank you so much for all of your guys' support. If you guys engage in my other social media platforms, that is super helpful as well. You can find me at Willow D Steele on all the major social media platforms. I'm on Letterboxd, Serialized, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, the Awards Expert app. Please give me a follow and engage, because all of you guys' engagement and support really helps to grow my channel and all my other platforms, helps push me out into the algorithm, and just help to grow my cinema loving community. So thank you guys so much for all of the support, and until my next video, keep getting lost in cinema. Bye!